Republicans have been celebrating Thanksgiving all month following election victories this year. The GOP will control the White House, the Senate, and the House of Representatives. Now we're getting more information about the chess pieces moving in and out of Florida. Our political analyst joins me as we talk with re-elected U.S. Representative Aaron Bean, the new Doge caucus he has co-founded, and his view on small business success on This Week in Jacksonville. Thank you for joining us today. So in the wake of November's election triumphs by Republicans, President-elect Trump announced the creation of a new Department of Government Efficiency, and he appointed business leaders Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy to lead it. Now, that's something that got conservatives like Florida's Aaron Bean really fired up.
Taking on Crazy Town is no easy task. Elon and Vivek will need partners in Congress to accomplish many of the cuts that are necessary to rein in the unelected bureaucrats who have enjoyed unchecked power for far too long.
And joining us today, U.S. Representative Bean and News4Jax political analyst Rick Mullaney. So, Congressman, this new department's got a mission, and I'll read the quote for you, to dismantle government bureaucracy slash excess regulations, cut wasteful expenditures, and restructure federal agencies. So it seems like you like this idea. What I just saw right there, you like
100%. I love it. America is demanding it right now. Government has been at the buffet far too long. It's time to pull away. And Trump nailed it with this work group, the Department of Government Efficiency. Couldn't pick the two smartest guys on the planet, Elon Musk, Vivek. We have his back, their back. We want to provide cover for them. They're going to dive in immediately and give President Trump, here's suggestions you can do through executive orders. Some of that's going to have congressional action required. And so we're leveraging and building a team right now of like-minded members of Congress that hopefully will divide and conquer. There's so much to do. There's going to be something for everybody. And we're looking forward to making government more efficient. How about that?
Well, Congressman, one of the reasons I asked Rick Mullaney to join us, the director of the Public Policy Institute at Jacksonville University. So when it comes to a significant policy change here is really what this Department of Government Efficiency is going to do. What are some of the components that you'll have to look at and that'll have to happen, Rick?
No, it's going to be work. It's going to be work. I mean, on the chopping block could be the Department of Education. Are we getting our money's worth? What business does the federal government have in education? Wouldn't states do far better if we just gave them the money that we normally fund the Department of Education? We've got millions of square feet of buildings in D.C. that are vacant right now because only less than 25% of workers in Washington, D.C. are back at their office full time. The list is on and on. I was just telling Rick as we launched, the Pentagon has failed its 7th audit, cannot explain, has no idea where $824 billion has gone. So there's work to do. There is lots of low-hanging fruit. I just looked at the latest place where we're spending money, studying the effect of yoga on goats. That's $1.7 million a study, and if it's not funny, I mean, it's outlandish. It's time to end it. It's time to reel everybody in and make government more efficient.
Yeah, I know when we were talking about this as a topic with Congressman Bean, you said, yeah, this is big.
It's very big, but I think you have to approach it with some realism. The congressman's passion is shared by many, and I actually think it's shared by some people on the left, too, and that is it's time to shine a spotlight. When you shine a spotlight on something, you change behavior. But there needs to be a recognition of how hard this is. When you take a look at, Kent, at this overall budget of $6.5 to $7 trillion, about half of that, $3.5 trillion, is Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. You're at $3.5 trillion. So half of the budget is off limits. By the time you add in defense, which is another close to $900 billion, and interest on the debt, which is actually more than defense, another $900 billion, you're over at $5 trillion that, quite frankly, you can't touch. So you're looking at $1.5 trillion to maybe maybe $2 trillion. By the way, that's a lot of money. There's hundreds of millions of dollars that do need review. But for those who thought we were going to go cut $2 trillion out of the budget, that's unrealistic. However, if you were to simply stop the growth of federal spending, that would be a big day at the office. But as the congressman points out, it's more than just spending. It's also about efficiency. It's about waste. It's about how these departments are operating. And you have two very, very brilliant people in charge of this effort. This has been done in the past, but it's going to be a real challenge. And I think for Republicans, the mantra of it's grown too big, we want a smaller government, has been around for decades. And this is an inflection point in which a lot of attention is going to be brought to bear on this very difficult task of the growth of bureaucracy, of the administrative state. But I do think you have to approach it with some realism, because there's entrenched interest, there's constituencies for all of this. It's a tall order. They have their work cut out for them.
And Congressman, the House, the Senate, the White House, all Republican-led. So this is an opportunity, right, for some of that to happen?
It is an opportunity. And to Rick's point, the swamp will not go quietly into the night. We've got bureaucrats that are unaccountable to anyone. As a congressman and congressmen across the land stand in front of the electorate and are themselves held accountable. These bureaucrats are not. So they're not going to just go. They're not going to say, oh, you got me, I'm going to give up. So we've got to fight. We've got to entrench. That's why this caucus is important, to unite, to build numbers, to strike while the iron is indeed red hot. Now's the time to get it done.
Well, is it something that you envision any success reaching across the aisle? Will Democrats come on board at some point to say, yeah, we can see some value in this?
None yet. However, the door will be open. And to Rick's point, many of the entitlement programs that also are on an unsustainable path will in fact need bipartisan support to make that happen. We're still going to have a razor-thin majority. It could be with the three vacancies that we know that are going to start the new year off. It's 221 Republicans, possibly 214 Democrats. If we're down 218 to 214, we have to have everybody on board. Certainly, it would be great if we had Democrats. The door's open, and I will reach out and make sure that they feel welcome to make government more efficient.
Rick, what's your view? How is this different than what we saw in 2016, the first time Donald Trump was elected? 2024 seems like it's a different scenario.
I think 2024 with the Trump 2 is a sharp contrast to 2016. I think, quite frankly, the nation was stunned in 2016, and maybe Donald Trump was too. And he took a lot of time with his appointments. He tried to find his footing. He wasn't sure whether he had a mandate or a vote to go forward. This time he feels very differently. And you can see this in the rollout of his appointments. It's been very quick. He's been very confident. He's been very focused. For example, on day one, I do expect that on the first day he's going to talk about immigration. And he's going to put some executive orders in place, and he's going to change some policies there. He's going to change energy policy. And this, what we're talking about right now, taking on the bureaucracy, has been a big priority for Donald Trump. He's got two brilliant people, and they're going to have staff under them working 80 hours a week doing this. So I think 2024 is in sharp contrast to 2016, both in terms of the election result, not that he won both times, but he won in a different way this time, and also his own confidence in knowing the lay of the land and surrounding himself with people he has confidence in. So expect him to go forward this very aggressively, but as the congressman pointed out, it won't happen easy. It's going to be a tall order.
Yeah, all right. So the Department of Government Efficiency, it's just one of the big changes that President-elect Trump plans to make. We're going to look at some of the most recent moves playing out on the elected office board, including the potential for Florida's CFO to change jobs. We'll talk about all that next on This Week in Jacksonville. Don't go anywhere.
You're watching This Week in Jacksonville with Kent Justice.
And we're joined today by Jacksonville University's Rick Mullaney, Shercliffe Executive Director of the Public Policy Institute there. Also, Jacksonville University graduate, Mr. Aaron Bean, about to start his second term in the House of Representatives, serving Nassau and Clay counties and a large part of Duval's west side. So let's talk a little bit about the appointments from President-elect Trump and the transition team. Your view, what are kind of the home runs, the no-brainers, the really good picks that have already been made for either appointments or nominations?
The team is loaded. The bench is loaded. We're loaded. But certainly with strong ties to the First Coast, Susie Wiles being the quarterback of Chief of Staff is a home run of a pick. And I know Rick has taught with her at Jacksonville University, which is good. I love Marco Rubio's pick. That, to me, is dynamite. And for his work, you know, he served in the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. he's going to be dynamite. I really am excited about that, and I think everybody, even on the other side of the aisle, is giving him rave reviews.
Yeah, what are you seeing, Rick?
I agree with that. I think you're going to see bipartisan support for Marco Rubio. I think Representative Mike Waltz is going to have strong support. Susie clearly does. There have been a number of picks. Burgum, I think, for Interior is another one who's getting great reviews. I think you're going to see bipartisan support with quite a few of those picks. But there's some other side to that are more controversial. Certainly you saw with Matt Gaetz, the withdrawal of that nomination, that was a little bit of a fumble. But Pam Bondi, I expect the hearings may be a little more contentious, but I don't expect it to derail her confirmation. 53 Republicans. She brings a very sharp contrast in her background, having been a prosecutor, having been Attorney General. But of course, of the remaining, you got three that are going to be kind of questionable, I think. One is going to be Tulsi Gabbard. That's one that you're going to have to take a hard look. Pete Hegseth will get a very strong look. And, of course, Kennedy is the third that I think those hearings are going to be a little more contentious than some of those other appointments.
And Congressman, when you were serving in Florida's government and the legislature there, that's when Pam Bondi was Attorney General. What are your thoughts on her?
Dynamite pick. Dynamite pick. She's fired up, and I think he wanted somebody to fire up, somebody fired up to go into the Department of Justice. Let's be clear, they're out of control. They've weaponized that agency. We need somebody to bring that agency back. They targeted Catholics. They targeted pro-life people. They have weaponized charges against people that didn't see things the way they wanted to be seen. So for Pam Bondi to come in and have the great reset in the Department of Justice is going to be great.
No concerns that maybe it flips to the other side there because she's loyal to President-elect Trump, that she would take it in the other direction?
No, remember, this is the agency that spied on the president. You remember when he was the president-elect coming in 8 years ago? Everybody laughed when he said, they're listening to my phone calls. They've tapped Trump Tower, and everybody laughed. And turns out he is right. So this department is out of control and needs to be brought back in.
Well, go ahead, Rick.
I was going to mention, Kent, this is something we talked about in the first segment, is the contrast of 2024 to 2016. Yeah. And I think thematically what you're seeing in these appointments is that Donald Trump had learned a lesson from 2016, and that is he wants to appoint people he knows, he wants to appoint people he trusts, and he wants to appoint people who share his vision and his agenda. Back in 2016, he wasn't quite as sure-footed, and he made some picks that I think he looks back in retrospect that maybe that didn't work out well for him. So this time, certainly what we've all seen is that one of his litmus tests certainly is loyalty in a relationship. Remember, back in 2016, in the Florida primary, Marco Rubio was running. Pam Bondi was one of the first to endorse Donald Trump back in 2016. In 2020, with Rudy Giuliani, she's one of the people who was bringing those lawsuits to challenge those results. In Donald Trump's first impeachment trial, she was one of the lawyers there. So make no mistake, she does bring 10 years of experience as a prosecutor, managing a large office as Attorney General for 8 years in the state of Florida, but she also does pass the litmus test with Donald Trump of a longtime supporter of Donald Trump.
Say what you want about this cabinet. It is the most diverse in thought. You've got people all across the geographic spectrum, and America said, let's mix it up. Let's do something different. Yeah. And certainly Donald Trump, as Rick has already said, very loyal to him, but also diverse in thought to head America in a new direction.
Well, we mentioned Matt Gaetz. He resigned from Congress and nominated for Attorney General, then withdrew. So that still leaves open the seat for Florida Congressional District 1. President-elect Trump has endorsed Florida's chief financial officer, Jimmy Patronis. Does that make it a lock? Because President-elect Trump said that's who you should support?
Nothing is a lock, and being Jaguar fans, we know that we could easily fumble on the 1 yard line, which we have. But certainly President Trump endorsing Jimmy Patronis, I believe, puts the ball certainly in the red zone. You could argue he's now on the 10-yard line. It's going to be very easy. It's difficult if you don't have the Trump endorsement, but for CFO Patronis. But he's so well liked already. He's very well liked, and certainly it's I believe it's his to lose.
Rick Patronis resigned, but that's effective March 31st. And then the special election for that seat is April 1st, following the primary, which has been scheduled for January 28th. What happens at the Capitol with the CFO position? I think we just discussed it's appointed, there will be an appointment by the governor to fill that role.
Well, big things happening in Florida. You certainly have seen it in Washington, but that also means big things for Governor Ron DeSantis, and that means for the U.S. Senate and who's he going to appoint there in that position, and it also for CFO, who's he going to appoint there. Certainly, and the congressman knows this better than me, that with the razor-thin margin, President Trump or President-elect Trump has certainly been going to the House for some of his picks, whether it's been Representative Mike Walz, Elise Stefanik, Matt Gaetz, who's now resigned. And so you've got to be a little careful here on making sure that margin is pretty thin. But in this case, I think you're going to see that district is pretty reliably conservative. As the congressman said, I think he's well positioned in that run with the governors.
And President-elect Trump to replace Michael Waltz, who's now the National Security Advisor. I believe President Trump is endorsing Randy Fine, state senator, right?
That's correct.
So another Florida connection there to moving pieces on this chessboard.
Florida connection, and again, that really puts him on the 10-yard line again with the Trump. It's just such a powerful endorsement, and it's swimming upstream if you don't have it, and certainly it's his to lose.
Particularly in these districts. These districts in particular have been conservative districts. They've gone red, and you predict they will again in the future.
All right, so stay with us. Congressman Bean has been a small business owner in Nassau County. He's earned multiple honors this fall. So we're going to focus in on the future of small business when we come back. That's next on This Week in Jacksonville.
You're watching This Week in Jacksonville on Channel 4.
Congressman Aaron Bean and Rick Mullaney are with us today for our final segment. Representative Bean received the Champion of Small Business Investing Award from Small Business Investor Alliance last month. And then in September, congratulations, the National Federation of Independent Business presented Congressman Bean the Guardian of Small Business Award. And they said it was for his pro-growth, pro-business, pro-worker voting record. So what's the key to that? What are you doing that gets the attention of these groups who say, you're behind us as small business owners?
It's certainly an honor to be recognized, but I serve on the Small Business Committee. There's a small business committee in the House of Representatives. I'm there to listen to what are the challenges of small business and to ease the regulation. There's more regulations now going on small business than ever before, ever in the history of our country right now. So they need relief, and as Rick we've said during the break, the environment, it's just tough to be a small business owner right now. And so for somebody to stand with them and to ease that regulation, it's certainly nice to be recognized. It's hard. It's hard enough to be in the business of any business, let alone when government comes in and puts more and more regulations. But for your viewers, for all our viewers, shop local. That's what I want to tell everybody. It truly, your dollar matters, and when you spend it with at a local business, they're going to turn around and hire your neighbors, and they're going to spend money, and it really keeps that money local versus sending it online where you don't know and send it away. So that truly makes a big difference.
It's no fun for us reporting that business went out. I mean, we've done a lot of that, especially the last year. And I think, Rick, we could point to a variety of factors there. A lot of folks just had a tough time getting through COVID, but also inflation and some of the things going on with the economy. What are some of the things that could help small businesses as we go into 2025?
You know, Kent, some of this, through this election, if you were to pick out one thing, and I think there's several, but if you were to take out one thing that was defining it, was inflation. And if you want to talk about small businesses in particular, they are killed by inflation and high interest rates. For them, that's everything from acquiring labor to the cost inventory, the cost of goods and services, and of course, running their business. And so I think what they'll be taking a look at is the regulatory environment, like the congressman's talked about. They'll be taking a looking at taxes, and certainly that'll be a big issue. But you're also looking at that inflation factor and the cost for them to produce what they're producing. It creates a lot of challenges for small businesses. So if you step back and you look at fiscal and monetary policy, those are big, big words. But as you're looking at the Federal Reserve and the spending and what the president's going to do, it does have a huge impact on small businesses because they have to go out and hire people. And those wages are rising. They have to go out and buy inventory, and that cost is increasing. And they still have to be talking about inflation, passing that on to their consumers, their customers. So it's really been a challenging time, as the congressman said. They're looking for some relief. And I think this election was about some of that, is that they and others are hoping for some relief when it comes to prices and inflation and the economy.
Yeah, some of that is on your agenda. And again, I think I've told people before, but some of your background is as a banker. So a small business owner with that heritage, there have got to be some ideas you've got on helping those small businesses.
Everybody needs to know this. Unless Congress acts, the tax cuts that Donald Trump did 7 years ago will expire next year. So one thing that the Ways and Means Committee will have to take up is a restoration of those tax cuts. Without it, everybody, small businesses are going to get walloped, but every taxpayer virtually at every level is going to get walloped. So that's going to be one of the first things that Congress has to do, is make sure that that's the worst thing to do. And we want to catch this economy on fire. So we're going to preserve those tax cuts, and then we're going to remind your viewers, go shop local. Wherever you spend your money truly matters. Let's spend it here.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I appreciate the time. U.S. Representative Aaron Bean and Rick Mullaney from the Jacksonville University Public Policy Institute. Thank you. Appreciate it. And here we are. We're in December. Enjoy the holidays and all of that. Hey, This Week in Jacksonville, we air each Sunday morning at this time. And I'm Kent Justice, so thanks for watching on air on Channel 4 and the CW17. And then, of course, you find us online at news4jax.com or streaming on News4Jax Plus. And don't forget to check out This Week in Jacksonville Business Edition. This episode of our podcast, we go deeper into the economy, the impact the Department of Government Efficiency may have for good or for bad. And we're doing that with Congressman Bean. You can find new episodes every Thursday at 9 a.m. And you're going to find it right now on News4Jax Plus under the channel This Week in Jacksonville.
See why every day more people are choosing News4Jax, Northeast Florida and South Georgia's #1 source for local news.